I'm writing this because I don't think I'm going to make it to my next paycheck. And if you're reading this looking for a quick cash job in New Mexico, do yourself a favor. Turn around. Drive until your tank runs dry, then walk. Just stay away from Highway 491. Locals still call it by its old name, Highway 666, the Devil's Highway. I was 23, broke and grieving. My mom had just passed, leaving me with nothing but a mountain of medical debt and a beat-up Ford sedan. That's how I ended up in Shiprock. My uncle Ernesto offered me a lifeline. He owned the Crossroads Gas and Food, about 8 miles south of town. He offered me $25 an hour, under the table, cash paid daily. For a gas station attendant in the middle of the desert, that wasn't a wage, that was a bribe. But I was desperate. I took the night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Ernesto looked at me with these sad, tired eyes when I signed the paperwork. He told me, "Keep your head down, Jesse. Don't ask questions, just ring them up." The first 6 weeks were quiet, just the hum of the refrigerators and the wind howling across the mesa. I started to think the stories about skinwalkers and desert ghosts were just tourist traps. Then came the Tuesday of the 6th week. It was 2:15 a.m. The bell above the door chimed. I looked up from my magazine. A man was standing at the counter. He wore a dusty denim jacket, like he'd been walking for days, but he didn't smell like sweat. He smelled like ozone and wet dog. I opened my mouth to ask if he needed gas, and then I saw them. His eyes. There were no whites, no irises, just 2 pools of absolute ink-black void. It looked like someone had used a dropper to fill his eye sockets with crude oil. He didn't speak. He just reached into his pocket and slammed a handful of change onto the counter. It wasn't coins. It was teeth. Human teeth. Molars, incisors, canines. Some of them were yellowed with age, some looked brand new. A few still had strings of pink, wet gum tissue dangling from the roots. They clattered on the glass counter like dice. My stomach dropped to the floor. I couldn't breathe. I just stared at the pile of bone. The man leaned in. His voice sounded like dry leaves skittering on pavement. He whispered, "Count it as cash, Jesse. Forget you saw me, or I come back for yours." I blinked, just once. When I opened my eyes, the man was gone. The door didn't chime. He had just vanished. And on the counter, the teeth were gone. Sitting in their place was a crumpled, dirty $20 bill. I spent the rest of the shift shaking in the back office. When I swept the floor at 6 a.m., I found something near the doormat, a single human molar. When I picked it up, it was still warm. I showed it to Uncle Ernesto when he came in to relieve me. I expected him to call the cops. I expected him to tell me I was crazy. He didn't. He just sighed, took the tooth from my hand, and tossed it into the trash bin like it was a candy wrapper. He said, "It's starting. You met a traveler." He walked behind the counter and pulled a clipboard from under the register. On it was a yellow legal pad, the paper brittle and faded with age. He told me about my cousin David, the guy who worked the graveyard shift before me. Police said David had a breakdown and walked into the desert. Ernesto knew better. They found David's car 3 miles out, engine idling, driver's door open. David wasn't in the car, but his shoes were sitting neatly in the middle of the road, laced up, empty, like he had been vaporized right out of them. Ernesto slid the yellow legal pad toward me. He said, "David didn't follow the list. If you want the money, Jesse, you have to follow the list. To the letter. No deviations, no heroism." I looked down. The handwriting was jagged, written in thick black marker. These are the rules of the Crossroads. Rule number 1, the single color eyes. Between the hours of 2 a.m. and 4:30 a.m., you might get customers with eyes that are one solid color. Black, white, red, it doesn't matter. Treat them like normal people. Do not scream. Do not pray. Most importantly, Do not stare at their eyes for more than 3 seconds. Whatever they hand you as payment, rocks, teeth, feathers, will transform into legal tender within 60 seconds. Wait for the change to happen before you open the register. If you open it while the teeth are still teeth, the register will jam and they will take offense. Rule number 2, the sealed door. If you hear knocking coming from the back storage room, ignore it. Put on headphones if you have to. That back door was welded shut in 1987. There is no handle on the outside. There is no way in. If you hear knocking, it means something is already inside the walls, trying to trick you into acknowledging it. Do not speak to the door. Do not knock back. Rule number 3, the reverse pump. Sometimes pump number 4 will start running backward. The gallons will count down instead of up. The liquid flowing into the car won't be gas. It will look like thick black tar. Do not hit the emergency shutoff. Do not go outside to warn the driver. Let it finish. If you stop the flow, the thing driving the car will come inside to finish its meal. Rule number 4, the lady in blue. A woman in a vintage 1950s blue dress might enter. She will be beautiful but pale. She will ask for directions to the San Juan mission. You must tell her exactly this. It is 18 miles north on Highway 491, then west on County Road 5500. Do not tell her that the San Juan mission burned down in 1952. Do not tell her that everyone inside died screaming. She doesn't know she's dead, and if you remind her, she will remember. You do not want to be in the room when she remembers the fire. Rule number 5, total blackout. If all the lights in the store cut out simultaneously, not a flicker, but a hard cut, you have 30 seconds. Drop to the floor behind the counter, curl into a ball, cover your neck. Do not look at the windows, do not look at the door. You will hear the sound of heavy, wet footsteps walking through the aisles. You will hear sniffing right above your head. Count to 100. Do not move until the lights hum back on. If you peek, they will see you. Rule number 6, the phantom smoke. If a customer asks, "What is burning?" but there is no smoke, you must reply, "Just tumbleweeds in the parking lot." If you smell smoke yourself while talking to a customer, do not react, do not cough, do not cover your nose. It is a test. If you acknowledge the fire, you become part of the fuel. Rule number 7, the witching hour. At exactly 3:33 a.m., check the security monitor for pump 7. We don't have a pump 7, we only have 6 pumps. If you see a figure standing at a non-existent 7th pump, holding a nozzle that isn't connected to anything. Ernesto stopped reading there. He looked at me, his face pale. He said, "If you see the figure at pump 7, Jesse, you lock yourself in the walk-in freezer. You wait until the sun comes up. Even if you freeze, frostbite is better than what he does to you." I took the list. I needed the money. I told myself it was just a hazing ritual, just a scary story to mess with the new guy. That was 3 nights ago. Tonight, the lights just flickered, and I can smell smoke. God help me, I can smell smoke. I never believed in curses or ghosts or skinwalkers. I needed a paycheck. That's why I took the graveyard shift at the Crossroads Gas and Food on Highway 491, but the locals still call it Highway 666. My uncle Ernesto gave me the keys and a crumpled yellow legal pad stained with grease. He didn't say good luck. He just said, "Read the list, Jesse. Do exactly what it says, or you'll end up like your cousin David." David disappeared 3 months ago. They found his shoes on the highway, but no feet inside them. I sat behind the counter, the fluorescent lights buzzing like angry wasps, and I read the list. It wasn't an employee handbook. It was a survival guide. These are the rules for the night shift at the Crossroads. Rule number 1, the monochromatic eyes. Between the hours of 2 a.m. and 4:30 a.m., you will get customers who look normal until they step into the light. Check their eyes. If the sclera, The iris and the pupil are all a single solid color. Pitch black, milk white, or blood red. Do not panic. Serve them normally, scan their items, but do not look them in the eye for more than 3 seconds. If you stare, they take it as an invitation. When they pay, they won't use money. They might hand you a fistful of raw meat, wet stones, or in one case, human teeth still warm from the jaw. Take it. Do not react. Place it on the counter, wait 60 seconds. If you look away and look back, the teeth will have turned into a crumpled $20 bill. If you put it in the register before it changes, the register will never open again. Rule number 2, the sealed door. There is a steel door next to the walk-in cooler. It has been welded shut since 1987. There is no handle, there is no room behind it. It leads directly into the foundation of the building. If you hear knocking coming from the other side of that steel door, ignore it. If the knocking becomes pounding, turn up the radio. If you hear a voice shouting your name, mimicking your mother's voice, do not answer. Nothing human is behind that door. If you acknowledge it, the welding will start to melt. Rule number 3, the reverse pump. Keep an eye on pump number 4. Sometimes a black sedan from the 1950s will pull up. The driver will not get out. The nozzle will lift itself and insert into the car. Watch the digital counter on your console. If the gallons start counting backward, do not hit the emergency stop. Do not go outside. The car is not taking gas. It is putting something back into the station's tanks. Let the process finish. If you interrupt the flow, the fluid will come out of the sinks in the bathroom instead. You do not want to see what that fluid is. Rule number 4, the lost pilgrim. A woman in a faded blue dress might enter. She will look dusty, like she's been walking for days. She will ask you for directions to the San Juan mission. Listen carefully. Tell her exactly this. Go 18 miles north on 491, then head west on County Road 5500. Do not tell her the truth. Do not tell her that the San Juan mission burned down in 1952 with everyone inside. Do not offer her water. Do not offer her a map. If you tell her the church is gone, she will scream. And when she screams, the glass in the windows will shatter inward. Just give the directions and she will leave. Rule number 5, total blackout. If all the lights in the store cut out at the exact same time, drop what you are doing immediately. You have 30 seconds. Dive behind the front counter, curl into a ball, cover your neck with your hands, close your eyes. Do not look at the windows. Do not look at the front door. You will hear the automatic door slide open. You will hear heavy footsteps, like hooves on tile, walking down the aisles. You will hear the sound of sniffing right above the counter. Count to 100 in your head. Do not stop counting. When you reach 100, the lights will flicker back on. If you look before the lights are steady, it will see you. Rule number 6, the phantom smoke. A customer might walk in and ask, "What is burning?" You might smell it too. The scent of burning sage and rotting hair. You must deny it. Tell them it is just tumbleweeds in the parking lot, nothing else. If you agree with them, if you admit you smell the smoke, the fire becomes real. The store isn't burning, but your lungs will feel like they are filling with ash. Deny the smoke, and it stays a hallucination. Acknowledge the smoke, and you suffocate. Rule number 7, the witching hour. At exactly 3:33 a.m., look at the security monitor for pump 7. This is the most important rule. If you see a man standing at pump 7 wearing a beige trench coat and a cowboy hat, look at his feet. If he is wearing boots, you are safe. Look away. But if you look at the monitor and the man has no feet, if he is hovering 3 inches off the pavement, grab the keys to the back office, lock yourself inside, and do not come out until the sun hits the window. He is not a customer. He is what took David. He is waiting for you to come outside and ask if he needs help. I thought these were jokes, hazing for the new guy. Then, last night at 2:15 a.m., a man walked in. He bought a pack of gum. His eyes were pools of black ink. He handed me a wet, severed finger. I put it on the counter. I waited. 60 seconds later, it was a $5 bill. I'm writing this down because tonight is my second shift, and 5 minutes ago, the lights flickered. I think I hear knocking on the welded door. I am writing this because I don't think I can quit. If I quit, I lose the protection of the building. If I lose the protection of the building, I think the things in the dark will finally catch up to me. My name is Jesse. I am 23 years old. I work the graveyard shift at Crossroads Gas and Food, a lonely speck of concrete and neon located on the stretch of asphalt formerly known as Highway 666. They changed the name to Highway 491 years ago, trying to scrub the superstition off the maps. But locals in Shiprock know better. You can change a number, but you cannot change the soil. You cannot change the blood that has soaked into the sand. I took this job because I had nowhere else to go. After my mom passed, the house felt too big, too quiet. My uncle Ernesto offered me the spot. 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Just me, the humming refrigerators, and the infinite black void of the New Mexico desert. Ernesto told me it would be quiet. He told me the pay was good. He didn't tell me about the rules until the night I held a handful of human teeth that were still warm. I need to explain the atmosphere of this place before I give you the list. You need to understand the texture of the fear. It isn't a jump scare. It isn't a guy in a mask chasing you with a knife. It is the crushing weight of isolation. When you stand behind the counter at 3 in the morning, the silence is so heavy it feels like pressure in your ears. The fluorescent lights above buzz with a sound that sounds like dying insects. Outside the plate glass windows, the world ends. The light from the canopy only reaches about 20 feet into the parking lot. Beyond that circle of artificial light, there is nothing but mesas and scrub brush and things that look like coyotes but walk on 2 legs. You feel like a fish in a lit tank, and the ocean outside is filled with hungry eyes. It started 6 weeks into the job. I was wiping down the counter, trying to ignore the smell of stale coffee and gasoline. The bell above the door chimed. I looked up. A man was standing there. He wore a denim jacket that looked 50 years old, covered in dust that was slightly too red to be from around here. He didn't walk to the cooler, he didn't look at the chips. He walked straight to the counter and stood there. He looked normal until he looked up. His eyes were ink. I don't mean he had dark pupils. I mean the sclera, the iris, the pupil, everything was a flat, matte black. It looked like someone had used a dropper tool in Photoshop and filled his eye sockets with void. My stomach dropped. My survival instinct screamed at me to run, to lock myself in the back office, but I was frozen. He placed a bottle of water on the counter. He didn't speak. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a handful of loose change. He dropped it on the counter. Clatter, clack, wet, thud. It wasn't coins. It was teeth, molars, incisors, canines. Some of them still had long yellow roots attached. Some of them still had bits of pink, wet gum tissue clinging to the enamel. They were piled there on the linoleum counter, glistening under the fluorescent lights. I stared at them. I could feel the bile rising in my throat. The man leaned in close. He smelled like ozone and copper. He whispered in a voice that sounded like dry leaves scraping on pavement. "Count it as cash. Forget my face. If you do not, I will come back for yours." He turned and walked out. The bell chimed again. I stood there, shaking, staring at the pile of biological waste on my counter. I blinked, just once. When my eyes opened, the teeth were gone. In their place was a crumpled, dirty $20 bill. I reached out and touched it. It was warm. It was the same temperature as the inside of a human mouth. I didn't leave the counter for the rest of the shift. I found a single molar on the floor near the door when I clocked out. I kicked it under the rug. The next morning, Uncle Ernesto came in to relieve me. I must have looked like a ghost because he didn't even ask what happened. He just nodded, walked into the back office, and came out with a yellow legal pad. The paper was old, brittle, and smelled like tobacco smoke. He put it on the counter. He told me about David. David was my cousin. He worked this shift before me. Ernesto told me David quit because of the stress. That morning, Ernesto told me the truth. David didn't quit. David disappeared. They found his car 3 miles down the highway. The engine was running. The door was open. David was gone, but his shoes were sitting neatly in the middle of the road, side by side, laces tied. Ernesto tapped the yellow pad. He said, "There are rules to this place, Jesse. I thought you could handle it without knowing, but the desert has taken notice of you. If you want to survive the night, you follow the list. You follow it exactly. You do not improvise. You do not try to be a hero. I am going to read you the rules now. I am reading them to you so that if you are ever driving through New Mexico at 2 a.m. and you see a Crossroads Gas and Food, you will keep driving. Do not stop. Do not come in. Here is the list. Rule number 1, the currency of the void. From the hours of 2 a.m. to 4:30 a.m., the laws of commerce change. You will receive customers who possess eyes of a single solid color, black, white, red, or sometimes a metallic silver. Do not react. Treat them as you would a regular tourist. Scan their items. When they pay, they will not use money. They will hand you things. Sometimes it is teeth. Sometimes it is a handful of wet sand. Sometimes it is a live scorpion. Do not refuse payment. Do not scream. Do not stare at their eyes for more than 3 seconds. If you stare too long, they will perceive it as a challenge. You do not want to challenge them. Take whatever they give you. Place it on the counter. Wait exactly 60 seconds. Do not put it in the register until it changes. The reality distortion field inside the station is strong, but it takes a minute to stabilize. The teeth will become bills. The scorpions will become coins. If you put the object in the register before it transforms, the register will rot from the inside out and you will owe the entity a debt. You cannot pay that debt with money. Rule number 2, the sealed door. There is a metal door next to the supply closet in the back hallway. It leads to the alley behind the building. That door was welded shut in 1987. There is no handle. There are 3 heavy steel deadbolts welded over the frame. If you hear knocking on that door, ignore it. It does not matter how frantic the knocking becomes. It does not matter if it sounds like a weeping child, or a police officer demanding entry, or your own mother screaming for help. Nothing human is on the other side of that door. The knocking is a lure. If you acknowledge it, if you speak to the door, or God forbid if you try to open it, you will be letting the outside in. The last time someone opened that door, we couldn't scrub the stains off the ceiling for a month. Turn up the radio, hum a song, do anything but listen to the knocking. Rule number 3, the entropy of pump 4. We have 8 gas pumps. Pump 4 is the one closest to the road. It is old. The paint is peeling. Sometimes, usually around 3 in the morning, the numbers on pump 4 will start moving backward. A car will be parked there, filling up, but the gallons aren't going up. They are counting down. This means the pump is feeding. It is not dispensing gasoline. It is extracting something from the car and the driver. Do not stop the pump. Do not hit the emergency shutoff. Do not go outside to warn the customer. If you interrupt the process, the pump will look for a new source to drain, and you are the closest biological battery available. Let it finish. The car will drive away. You will never see that car again. Just mark the loss in the ledger as spillage. Rule number 4, the pilgrim in blue. You might see a woman wandering the perimeter of the station. She wears a vintage blue dress, style from the late 1940s. She looks confused. She will eventually come to the window or walk through the door. She will ask you for directions to the San Juan mission. Listen to me carefully. You must give her specific directions. Tell her exactly this. It is 18 miles north on Highway 491, then turn west on County Road 5500. Do not offer her water. Do not offer her a map. And most importantly, do not tell her that the San Juan mission burned to the ground in 1952. She does not know she is dead. She does not know her destination is ash. If you tell her the truth, her confusion will turn into rage. Her face will change. You do not want to see what is underneath the skin of her face. Just give the directions, give her a polite nod, and watch her walk away into the dark. Rule number 5, the blackout game. The electricity in this part of the desert is unreliable, but there is a difference between a power outage and the arrival. If the power cuts, check the streetlights on the highway. If the streetlights are also out, it's just a grid failure. Use your flashlight, wait it out. But if the lights inside the store die and the streetlights outside are still burning bright orange, drop to the floor immediately. You have 30 seconds. Crawl under the front counter, curl into a ball, cover your head with your hands, squeeze your eyes shut. Do not peek, do not look out the window, do not look at the security monitors. You will hear the door open. You will hear heavy footsteps, footsteps that sound too heavy for a human, walking on the linoleum. You will hear the sound of sniffing, like a large dog searching for a bone. Count to 100 in your head. Do not rush the count. If you stay hidden, the entity will leave. The lights will flicker back on, you can stand up. You might find slime on the floor or scratches on the glass, but you will be alive. If you look, if you let it see you, you will end up like David, a pair of shoes left on the asphalt. Rule number 6, the phantom smoke. A customer might come in and ask, what is burning? You will sniff the air, you won't smell anything, the store is fine. You must answer them calmly. Say, it is just the tumbleweeds burning in the parking lot, nothing to worry about. Do not investigate, even if later you start to smell it too. Even if it smells like burning hair and sulfur, do not react. If you acknowledge the fire, it becomes real. The fire exists in a liminal state. It requires your belief to manifest physically. Deny the fire, and it remains a phantom. Accept the fire, and the station burns down with you inside it. Rule number 7, the mirror at pump 7. This is the last rule on the pad, and it is written in red ink. Precisely at 3:33 a.m., look at the security monitor for pump 7. If the pump is empty, you are safe. But if you see a figure standing at pump 7 staring directly into the security camera, you are in immediate danger. The figure will look like you. It will be wearing your clothes, it will have your face, it will be mimicking your movements, but with a 5-second delay. If you see yourself on the monitor, you must leave the counter. Walk to the breaker box in the back room. Flip the main breaker. Kill all the power to the station. Sit in the dark for exactly 10 minutes. The doppelganger cannot enter a dark room. It needs the electric currents to anchor itself to this reality. If you leave the lights on, it will come inside. It wants to replace you. It wants your life. And trust me, it will do a better job at living your life than you are doing right now. Once the 10 minutes are up, flip the breaker back on. Check the monitor. Pump 7 should be empty. If it is still there, well, Ernesto didn't write down what to do next. I guess that's where the instructions end. I finished reading the yellow pad. I looked up at Ernesto. He wasn't smiling. "Do you want the job, Jesse?" he asked. I looked at the dusty floor. I looked at the vast, terrifying desert outside. I looked at my empty bank account balance on my phone. "I'll take it," I said. That was 6 months ago. I have seen the man with the black eyes 3 times. I have a collection of transformed bills in the safe. I have heard the knocking on the back door. Last week, it sounded like my girlfriend calling my name. I don't have a girlfriend. I have hidden under the counter while heavy, wet footsteps circled the register. I counted to 100, shaking, tears streaming down my face, praying that my breathing wasn't too loud. I am writing this now because tonight is different. It is 3:30 a.m. I just checked the monitor. There is no one at pump 7, but there is someone standing at the glass doors of the entrance. He is wearing my name tag, he is wearing my shirt, he is looking at me through the glass, and he is smiling. The rule said the doppelganger appears at pump 7. The rules didn't say what to do if he's already at the door. He's raising his hand to knock. I think he wants to come in for his shift. If you're listening to this, stay off Highway 491. And if you find a pair of shoes on the side of the road, don't touch them. They might be mine. I messed up. I broke rule number 5. And if you are reading this, if you ever find yourself working the graveyard shift on Highway 666, somewhere between the infinite black of the New Mexico desert and the flickering neon of a dying civilization, you need to listen. You need to listen, because I can't leave this booth anymore. Not until the sun comes up. And I'm not sure the sun is ever going to come up again. Let me back up, just a little. My name is irrelevant. Call me the guy behind the glass. I took this job at the Crossroads gas stop because the pay was suspiciously high and my rent was suspiciously overdue. The owner, an old Navajo man named Mr. Begay, didn't ask for a resume. He just looked at my hands, checked if they were steady, and handed me a laminated sheet of yellow paper. He told me the rules were not suggestions, they were survival instructions. I thought he was hazing the new guy, local cryptid folklore to scare the city kid. Skinwalkers, the goat man, the things that mimic voices in the dark. I read the list, laughed it off, and started my shift. The first few weeks were quiet, just truckers hauling freight to Gallup and lost tourists looking for Roswell. I got comfortable. I got complacent. That is the first step toward dying out here. Then came tonight. It was 3:33 a.m., the witching hour, the time when the veil is thinnest, or whatever the Reddit threads say. I was wiping down the counter, smelling the stale coffee and the faint chemical tang of gasoline, when I felt it. Rule number 5 states clearly, if the air in the station suddenly smells like ozone and copper and the hair on your arm stands up, do not look at the glass front doors. Drop to the floor. Count to 60. Do not speak. I smelled the copper. It hit me like a physical blow, tasting like a mouthful of old pennies. The static in the air made my teeth ache, but I didn't drop. I didn't count. I was holding a pot of boiling coffee, and like an idiot, like a rational human being who rejects the supernatural, I looked up. I looked at the glass doors. Standing there, pressed against the glass, was a man, or it was shaped like a man. He was wearing a denim jacket that looked wet, heavy, like it had been soaked in oil. But it was his face that froze my blood. He didn't have one. Where his features should have been, the skin was smooth, pale, and unbroken, except for a single vertical slit where a mouth should be. And he was tapping. Tap, tap, tap. The sound wasn't coming from the glass. It was coming from inside my head, a wet, rhythmic thudding behind my eyes. I froze. I breached the rule. I looked. The slit on his face tore open. It didn't open like a jaw. It tore like wet fabric. A sound came out of him that I can only describe as a radio scanning through dead channels, static, screaming, and snippets of my own voice. He spoke. He mimicked me perfectly. "Can I help you on pump 5?" It was my voice, but it was distorted, layered over the sound of crushing bone. Panic is a funny thing. It doesn't make you scream, it makes you cold. It shuts down the logic centers of your brain and leaves you with lizard brain instincts. I remembered rule number 9, the fail-safe. Rule number 9, if you breach a rule and acknowledge a visitor, you must leave the main area immediately. Go to the supply closet in the back, lock the door, but, and this is the part that is currently killing me, you must not turn your back to them until the door is locked. I had to back away. I dropped the coffee pot. It shattered. Hot liquid scalded my legs, but I didn't feel it. I couldn't look away from the thing at the door. The door chime rang. Ding dong. He didn't push the door open. He didn't have to. The glass didn't break. It just melted. It rippled like water, and he stepped through. The smell of copper intensified, mixed now with the stench of rotting meat, like roadkill left on the asphalt for 3 days in the July sun. I took a step back. My boots crunched on the broken glass of the coffee pot. The thing jerked its head, a unnatural, bird-like twitch. "Can I help you?" it screeched, mimicking my customer service voice, mocking me. I took another step back. I was 10 feet from the supply closet. The creature took a step forward. Its legs moved wrong. The knees bent backward like a dog's hind legs. It was a skinwalker, or something older, something that hated the shape it was forced to wear. I'm writing this so you don't make my mistake, I whispered to myself, a mantra to keep from screaming. I reached behind me, feeling for the door handle of the supply closet. My hand hit the cold metal. The creature stopped. It tilted its smooth, featureless head. It knew what I was doing. Then the lights went out. Not just the overhead fluorescents, the cooler lights, the pump lights outside. The darkness was absolute. It was heavy. It pressed against my eardrums. Rule number 3, the dark is not empty. I could hear it breathing, a wet, rattling rasp. It was close, maybe 3 feet away. I could feel the heat radiating off it, a feverish, sickly warmth. I twisted the doorknob, locked. My heart stopped. I had locked it earlier. I had locked myself out of the only safe room in the building. I fumbled for my keys. The rattling of the metal sounded like gunshots in the silence. Rasp, step, rasp, step. It was right in front of me. I couldn't see it, but I could hear the fabric of that wet denim jacket stretching. I could smell the rot.
Don't look back, I thought, but I was facing it. I was backing up. I had nowhere to go. Then I remembered the lighter in my pocket. Mr. Begay had told me, casually, on my first night, fire cleanses, but it also attracts. Use it only if you have no choice. I flicked the Bic lighter. The flame sparked, a tiny island of yellow light in the abyss. It was inches from my face. The smooth skin was gone. In the flickering light, I saw what was really underneath. It was a collage, a patchwork of human features stolen from different people. An eye from a blue-eyed woman, a nose from an old man, teeth, so many teeth, hammered into the gums in chaotic rows, like the man who paid with molars in the stories Mr. Begay told. It smiled. 1,000 stolen teeth gnashed together. 20 on pump 5, it whispered. I screamed. I didn't mean to, but the terror clawed its way out of my throat. I threw the lighter at it. The flame caught the oil on its jacket. It didn't burn like normal fire. It flared green. The creature shrieked, a sound that wasn't human, wasn't animal. It was the sound of tearing metal. It stumbled back, flailing. I turned. I broke the don't turn your back rule because I had no choice. I scrambled over the counter, knocking over the display of beef jerky and cheap sunglasses. I hit the floor on the other side, crawling toward the manager's office. I could hear it thrashing behind me. The fire wasn't hurting it. It was just annoying it. It was laughing now, a deep, guttural chuckle that shook the floorboards. I slammed into the office door, threw it open, and dived inside. I kicked it shut and threw the deadbolt, just as a heavy weight slammed against the wood. Boom! The door bowed inward. Plaster dust rained down from the ceiling. Boom! Jesse, it called out. It wasn't mimicking me anymore. It was mimicking Mr. Begay. Jesse, open the door. It's safe now. The rules are done. I backed into the corner, huddled under the desk. I pulled out my phone. No signal, of course. We are on Highway 666. The devil doesn't provide 5G. But I have the store Wi-Fi. That's how I'm typing this. It's still out there. It stopped banging on the door about 10 minutes ago. But I know it hasn't left. I can hear it pacing. The distinct click-clack of hard nails on the linoleum tiles. It's walking circles around the office. And it's singing. It's singing a nursery rhyme, but the words are wrong. It's singing about teeth. It's singing about how soft my skin looks. I checked the cameras from the monitor on the desk. The main feed is static. The pump feeds are black. But camera 4 points at the hallway right outside the store. I looked. The hallway is empty. There is nothing there.
but I can hear it breathing against the wood of the door. I can hear the scratch of a fingernail slowly peeling the paint off the other side. This is the breach. This is what happens when you look. The logic breaks down. The cameras lie. Your senses lie. There is a vent above me. I just heard a screw turn. If you work at a gas station on the highway and a man with no face taps on the glass, don't look. Don't look. Don't look. The vent cover just fell. I have to go. Don't look back. It was 3:33 in the morning when the hum of the refrigerator units died. If you have never worked a graveyard shift in the middle of the New Mexico desert, you don't know what true silence is. It is not peaceful, it is heavy. It presses against your eardrums like deep water. The fluorescent buzzing that usually drills into my skull was gone, replaced by a vacuum of sound that made the blood rushing in my ears sound like a roaring river. Then the darkness hit. It wasn't a flicker, it was instant. 1 second, I was staring at the rows of beef jerky and stale donuts under the clinical white glare. The next, I was drowning in ink. Rule number 5. The memory of Uncle Ernesto's yellow legal pad flashed in my mind, brighter than any light. Rule number 5. If all the lights in the store go out at the same time, you have 30 seconds to get under the register counter and hide. Do not look out the windows. Do not look at the door. Count to 100. I didn't hesitate. I didn't look around to see if it was a power surge. I didn't check the breaker box. I dropped. My knees hit the linoleum hard, a dull thud that sounded like a gunshot in the quiet store. I scrambled into the cramped crawl space beneath the register, pulling my legs in tight to my chest, wedging myself between the safe and a stack of receipt paper rolls. 1, 2, 3. I started the count. My breathing was ragged, sharp gasps that I tried to swallow. I clamped a hand over my mouth, biting into the meat of my palm to stifle the noise. The air down here smelled of dust and old copper pennies. 4, 5, 6. Why 30 seconds? That was the question that always nagged at me when I read the list. Why did the rule give me a 30-second grace period? I found out at count number 7. The electronic chime above the front door rang. Bing bong. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I thought it would crack the bone. The power was out. The sensor shouldn't work. The chime shouldn't work. But it rang, clear and cheerful, announcing a customer. 8, 9, 10. Heavy boots on the tile. Not the shuffling of a drifter or the rhythmic click of high heels. This was a heavy, wet stomp, like someone walking in boots filled with soup. Slap thud, slap thud. I squeezed my eyes shut. The darkness behind my eyelids was safer than the darkness of the store. I focused on the image of the customer I had served 6 weeks ago, the one Uncle Ernesto had warned me about, the man with eyes like spilled ink. I remembered the way he smiled, too wide, too many teeth, and how he paid me with a handful of human molars still wet with pink root tissue. I remembered the rule. Anything they give you becomes legal tender in 60 seconds. That man had been a warning. This thing walking toward the counter now, this was the penalty for failure. 15, 16, 17. The footsteps stopped. They were right in front of the counter. I could hear breathing now. It wasn't human breathing. It was a wet, rattling wheeze, like air being forced through a crushed windpipe. It sounded like a dying radiator. Jesse. The voice didn't come from a mouth. It sounded like it was coming from the walls, from the floor, vibrating through the wood of the cabinet pressing against my spine. It mimicked Uncle Ernesto's voice, but the cadence was wrong. It was too flat, too digital, like a recording that had been cut up and spliced back together by someone who didn't understand human emotion. Jesse, the lights are out, mijo. Come check the breaker. 18, 19, 20. Do not listen. Do not react. That wasn't a rule on the paper, but it was the oldest rule of the desert. My grandmother used to tell us stories about the skinwalkers out on the reservation, Yin al-Dolashi.
She said they would call your name in the voice of someone you loved. If you answered, you invited them in. If you looked at them, you gave them your soul. I bit my hand harder. I tasted iron. Jesse, David is here. He wants his shoes back. 25, 26. A tear leaked out of my eye and tracked cold down my cheek. David, my cousin, the one who worked this shift before me, the one they said had a mental breakdown and wandered into the desert. Uncle Ernesto never told the police the truth, but he told me. They found David's car 3 miles down Highway 491. The engine was idling, the door was open. His shoes were sitting perfectly in the middle of the yellow line, side by side, laces tied. David wasn't in them. He's cold, Jesse. The voice changed. It shifted, cracking and warping, until it sounded like me. It was my own voice, whispering from the other side of the counter. I'm so cold. Open the safe, Jesse. Let me in. 30, 31, 32. Something tapped on the countertop above me. Tap, tap, tap. It was the sound of a long fingernail striking the laminate, or maybe a claw. The tapping moved. It started at the far end near the lottery tickets and walked its way down, inch by inch, getting closer to where my head was pressed against the wood. Tap, tap, tap. It knew I was there. Of course it knew. The rules weren't there to keep the entities out. The rules were a game, a ritual. If I stayed hidden, if I completed the count, I was playing by the rules. If I looked, if I spoke, I broke the contract. 40, 41. The smell hit me then. It drifted through the cracks of the register drawer above me. It didn't smell like smoke, which Rule 6 warned about. It smelled of ozone and rotting meat.
Like a lightning strike on a carcass that had been baking in the sun for a week. It made my stomach turn over. I gagged, a violent spasm in my throat, but I held it back. If I make a sound, I die. The tapping stopped directly above my head. I can hear your heart, Jesse. The voice was right at the edge of the counter now. If I opened my eyes, if I tilted my head just an inch, I would be able to see its feet through the gap between the floor and the kick plate. I squeezed my eyes tighter, visualizing the numbers. Giant, blocky white numbers floating in the dark. 50, 51, 52. Silence returned, but it was worse this time. The wet breathing had stopped. The tapping had stopped. The store was absolutely silent. Was it gone? That was the trick. That was the trap. It wanted me to think it was over. It wanted me to peek, to check if the coast was clear before I reached 100. I thought about Rule 3. The pump sometimes pumps backward. You have to let it finish. You don't intervene. You let the anomaly run its course. The logic of this place was not human logic. It was the logic of a predator playing with food. 55, 56. A sound came from the back of the store, a loud metallic clang. It sounded like someone had taken a sledgehammer to the welded shut back door. Rule 2, ignore the knocking at the back door. But this wasn't knocking, this was a breach. They're coming in, Jesse, the voice whispered, back to mimicking Uncle Ernesto. The back door is open. You have to stop them. Panic flared in my chest. What if it was true? What if looters were breaking in? What if this wasn't the monster, but a distraction while someone robbed the place? No, I am a logical man. I am a survivor. I know that a welded steel door does not open with one hit. I know that looters don't strike silently in the dark. 60, 61, 62. I stayed curled in my ball. I was shaking now, tremors running through my arms and legs that I couldn't control. The adrenaline was sour in my veins. Then, the physical contact happened. Something brushed against the kick plate of the counter, inches from my face.
I felt the vibration through the floor. It was pacing, back and forth, prowling. Scrape, step, scrape, step. It was waiting for the time limit. Rule 1 said to wait 60 seconds for the money to change. Rule 5 said to count to 100. Time was the currency here. 70, 71, 72. Look at me. The command was forceful. It wasn't a whisper anymore. It was a growl, deep and guttural, vibrating with a frequency that made my teeth ache. Look at me. The register drawer above me rattled violently. The coins inside clattered. It was slamming its fist, or whatever it had, onto the counter. 75, 76.
I started counting faster in my head, desperate to reach the end. 77, 78, 79. Don't you want to see what happened to David? A wet thump on the floor, right in front of my hiding spot. It sounded like a wet bag of meat being dropped. He's right here, Jesse. He's looking at you. My mind screamed at me to look. The human instinct to assess a threat is overpowering. Every neuron in my brainstem was firing, telling me to open my eyes, to identify the danger so I could fight it or flee from it. Hiding feels unnatural when the predator is within striking distance. But I knew David was gone. I knew what they found on the highway. Empty shoes. I focused on the shoes. I focused on the laces. 85, 86, 87. The temperature dropped. I could feel the cold radiating from the gap under the counter. Frost began to form on the metal of the safe next to my cheek. My breath was coming out in visible plumes in the dark, but I forced it to be slow, shallow. Don't breathe. The presence lowered itself. I could feel it crouching. It was going to look under. The rule said I couldn't look out. It never said it couldn't look in. Terror, cold and absolute, washed over me. If it looked under the counter, if our eyes met, was the rule broken? Or did I just have to keep not looking? I buried my face in my knees. I covered my head with my arms. I made myself into a stone. A rock has no eyes. A rock cannot break the rules. 90. I felt hot breath on my neck. It had bypassed the wood. It was phantom breath, passing through solid matter to caress my skin. It smelled of ancient dust. 91, the voice whispered in my ear. It was counting with me. 92, it was mocking me. 93, you're going to die here, Jesse, just like your mother. My mother. That was a low blow. That was the hook meant to drag the anger out of me, to make me scream, to make me engage. 94, 95. Open your eyes, it shrieked, a sound like tearing metal. 96, 97. The counter shook as if an earthquake had hit the store. Bottles of liquor on the shelves behind me shattered, crashing to the floor. The noise was deafening, sensory overload, chaos meant to break my concentration. 98. Open your eyes! 99. I clamped my eyes shut so hard stars exploded in my vision. I screamed the last number inside my mind, a desperate plea to the universe. 100. Snap. The lights hummed. The buzzing returned. That beautiful, annoying, headache-inducing buzzing of the fluorescent tubes. The cold vanished instantly. The smell of ozone and rot evaporated, replaced by the smell of floor wax and coffee. I stayed curled in a ball for a long time. I didn't move at 101. I didn't move at 110. I waited until my heart rate slowed from a jackhammer rhythm to a simple panic. Slowly, painfully, I uncurled my limbs. My joints popped. I wiped the sweat and tears from my face with my sleeve. I peeked out from under the counter. The store was empty. The shelves were orderly. The liquor bottles I had heard shattering, they were perfectly intact, lined up behind the counter, dust undisturbed. The front door was closed. The open sign glowed neon red in the window. I crawled out.
my legs wobbling like a newborn fawn's. I pulled myself up using the counter for support. I looked at the clock. 3:35 a.m. 2 minutes. The whole ordeal had lasted 2 minutes. I walked around the counter to where the entity had been standing. There were no footprints, no mud, no scratches on the laminate where the claws had tapped. But then I saw it, lying on the floor, exactly where the wet thump had sounded. It was a shoe, a frantic, worn-out sneaker, a gray New Balance size 10. I knew that shoe. I had seen it in family photos. I had seen it on the news reports when they showed the crime scene photos from Highway 491. It was David's left shoe. I didn't touch it. I didn't pick it up. I went back to the counter, grabbed the broom, and swept the shoe out the front door, into the parking lot, and kicked it as far as I could into the sagebrush. Then I went back inside and locked the door. I checked the list again. Uncle Ernesto's handwriting seemed to mock me. Rule 7. At exactly 3:33 a.m., check the security cameras. If you see someone standing at pump 7, go outside immediately. I looked at the clock. It was past 3:33. I had missed the window for Rule 7 because I was busy surviving Rule 5. And that's when I realized the true horror of this place. The rules aren't just for survival. They contradict each other. Sometimes, to follow one rule, you have to break another. And tonight, I had missed the check at Pump 7. I looked at the security monitor. Pump 7 was empty, but on the pavement next to it, in the grain of the black and white footage, I could see something small lying on the ground. It was the matching right shoe, and it was pointing towards the store.
6:45 a.m. The sky over Shiprock was turning a bruised purple, bleeding into the harsh orange of a New Mexico sunrise. I was huddled behind a counter, my grip on a tire iron so tight my knuckles were white. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound in the world. If you have been listening to my logs, you know the night was bad. But the rules say the last 15 minutes are the most dangerous. Rule number 9. Do not unlock the front doors until the sun touches the top of the pumps. Not when you see light, not when your watch says 7 a.m., only when the shadow of the canopy retreats. The things out here, they hate the direct light, but they love to trick you with false dawns. I stared at the security monitor, channel 4, the pumps. There was nothing there, just tumbleweeds and the cracked asphalt of Highway 666. I looked down at the cash register. My hands were shaking. I had to count the drop before Uncle Ernesto arrived. I keyed in the code. The drawer popped open with a cheerful ding that sounded like a gunshot in the silence. I froze. Sitting right on top of the $20 bills was a molar, a human molar. It was grayish yellow, with a long, jagged root still caked in dried blood. I remembered the guy from 2 a.m., the one with the eyes like spilled ink, the one who bought a pack of cigarettes and paid with a crumpled 20. Rule number 1 said to accept whatever they give you because it turns into legal tender within 60 seconds. I had watched that tooth turn into a crisp $20 bill. I swear to God I did. I put it in the drawer. But now, in the light of day, the illusion had worn off. I picked it up. It felt heavy, real. It was still warm. A wave of nausea hit me. I wasn't crazy. The gas station fumes hadn't hallucinated this. This was physical proof that I had spent 8 hours servicing things that shouldn't exist. Knock, knock, knock. 3 sharp raps on the glass front door. I flinched, dropping the tooth back into the drawer and slamming it shut. I looked at the door. It was Uncle Ernesto. He was wearing his usual faded flannel shirt and a trucker hat. He was smiling, holding a thermos of coffee. Rule number 10. When the relief arrives, check their shadow. I squinted against the glare. The sun was hitting Ernesto's back. His shadow stretched long and thin across the concrete. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. The shadow looked normal. It matched his movements. It didn't have horns. It didn't have extra limbs. I unlocked the door. The chime rang. "Morning, mijo," Ernesto said, breezy as you please. He walked past me, the smell of Old Spice and gasoline trailing him. "Quiet night?" I looked at him. I wanted to scream.
I wanted to grab him by the collar and ask him about the woman in the blue dress who tried to claw through the glass at 3:33 a.m. I wanted to show him the tooth in the register. "Yeah," I croaked. My voice sounded like I had swallowed sandpaper. "Quiet." He nodded, not looking at me. He went straight to the coffee pot to start a fresh brew. Good. Cousin David used to complain too much. That is why he didn't last. I felt a chill go down my spine that had nothing to do with the AC. Cousin David didn't just quit. They found his car 3 miles down the road with the engine running and his shoes on the pavement. No David. I grabbed my backpack. I needed to get out. I needed to be anywhere but here. "See you tonight, Ernesto," called out as I pushed the door open. I didn't answer. I stepped out into the dry morning heat. The air smelled of sagebrush and burning rubber. I got into my Honda Civic. I locked the doors. I checked the back seat. Rule number 11. Always check your back seat before leaving the property. Sometimes they like to hitch a ride. Empty. I started the car and peeled out of the lot, hitting the highway faster than I should have. I kept checking my rearview mirror. The gas station shrank in the distance, a tiny island of fluorescent lights in a sea of desert. I drove for 20 minutes in silence. I was starting to convince myself it was just sleep deprivation. Maybe I did hallucinate the tooth. Maybe the woman in the blue dress was just a meth head looking for a fix. Then my phone buzzed. An Amber Alert. I glanced at the screen. It wasn't an Amber Alert. It was a text message from an unknown number. One word: return. My blood ran cold. I looked in the rearview mirror again. A black sedan was about 100 yards behind me, windows tinted dark, no license plate. It was matching my speed perfectly. I sped up to 80. It sped up. I slowed down to 40. It slowed down. I remembered the man with the ink black eyes. He told me to keep the change. I reached into my pocket. I felt something hard and small. I pulled it out. It was another tooth. I didn't put that there. I'm writing this from the parking lot of a diner in Gallup. The black sedan is parked across the street. They haven't gotten out. They're just watching. I survived the night shift at the Crossroads Gas and Food, but I don't think I ever really clocked out. If you're driving down Highway 666 through New Mexico and you see a gas station that looks a little too old, a little too lonely, keep driving. Don't stop for gas. Don't stop for snacks. And for the love of God, if the clerk tries to give you change, don't take it. I have to go. The driver's door of the black sedan just opened. I think my shift is starting again.